Yes. Okay. My name is Roland Taylor. I'm 64 years old. I was born on August 14th, 1950, New Orleans, Louisiana. My family moved up here in 1959 when I was just about to turn 10 years old, and I basically lived here in Seattle, Washington since that time. I've traveled, of course, to a few other places. I lived in Vancouver, Canada, and Montreal, Canada, and Orlando, Florida. I've lived in Columbia, South Carolina. Traveled throughout a few states in the United States. I lived down in Mazatlan, Mexico for a little while.
Wow.
I played professional football.
Oh.
I'm a chef by trade. I've been cooking for 50 years. I grew up in restaurants. My mom and dad both were professional chefs. And I learned how to cook at 8 years old. I began. And then when I was 14, I began to cook out in the industry.
Yeah.
And so I have acquired my culinary arts degree. I have right now. I'm currently have my associate's degree in culinary arts. Though I learned most of what I know from my mother and father. And by the time I got into school, I knew more about cooking than most of my instructors. So
yeah.
My specialty is a Creole and Caribbean food.
Yeah. Cool.
I guess my first experience being homeless began in about 1993, and when things just, I just started. My mother had died, who I was very close to. My first wife and I had separated. Very traumatic experience for me. I loved her and the family that we were beginning to have, and it was a big loss. And so a lot of my problems began with grieving the loss that had happened, the death of my mom and losing my wife and her walking out with my son and so forth. So it was, that's when my self-medication began to, I began to self-medicate to hide the hurt, the pain, to forget, even though you never forget. There's no sooner than the high is gone than you remembering and you're remorsing all over again, which led to great moments of depression. And depression turned, with the self-medication, turned into some schizophrenia, and then with some psychotic experiences as far as being, and I'm a big guy, becoming more violent and stuff like that toward people on the streets, but especially toward dope dealers.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was self-medicating, I started to rob them and stuff like that. So I had that whole experience, and then after doing a bout in prison from 96 to 2000, I come out in 2000 and went back for a little while. Came back out in 2004 and decided that I didn't want to continue in the lifestyle. So I began to try and find ways to make changes. Even though I was still homeless, I began to make changes in my life. I got psychological help. I had been institutionalized a couple of times in Seattle, West Seattle Mental Health Hospital. And besides that, the time I've been in jail, I've gone through chemical dependency classes and so forth. But one thing I did learn, and that I do appreciate about being homeless, is I learned that people who are homeless aren't degenerate people. I found that there were many people who had degrees and had professional businesses and taught school and done many different things in their lives, and there's still some mental, physical, spiritual, traumatic experience that they became homeless, something that they couldn't handle, something they got overwhelmed by, and they just didn't recuperate. They had no means of support. So, like me, I found out that we had that in common. You know, it was not because of any fault of our own, or because of laziness, or because of a desire not to work or achieve or attain. It was none of those reasons. It was because of some deep emotional traumatic experience that they just couldn't handle, that became overwhelmed by, and then things in their lives just, it was like wave after wave of emotional traumatic experiences that kept them in that position, and they got deeper and deeper into themselves, and withdrew from society as we know it, you know, as being very productive and achieving and stuff like that. So it's but you find that they didn't lose themselves. When somebody was able to sit down and talk with them, they knew very well who they were and what they were and their ability and what they could do. They just didn't care about it anymore. They just lost the interest. And I knew math professors and even clergy, people who have just lost themselves. And like I was telling you about the one lady, she was an older lady. She was older when I met her, but she used to panhandle downtown. But when she passed away, I knew her for about maybe 5-6 years. And when she passed away, her kids, she lived down in the Madison Park area. She had a upstairs apartment building. And when they found her dead and went inside her place, they found 3 mattresses stuffed full of money, where she had just been putting all this money away, all her money. She didn't believe in banks anymore. She didn't trust in banks, and she had lost her house through they had blacklisted the black neighborhood, and so she couldn't get a loan to repair her house and stuff like that, and so she just started stuffing all her money in these mattresses, and then she was a wealthy woman when she passed away. But you know, just things like that remind me, and that yet today still give me hope. First of all, what it takes to break the chain of homelessness and hopelessness is the desire. One must have the desire, first and foremost. If you don't have the desire, if you don't want something different for yourself, you won't seek it. And there's no amount of help anyone can give you that can make you attain that. It has to come from within yourself. You have to have a desire for change, for something different, to be able to move